less than 2 weeks ago. And so as soon as we found out, we talked. We had one particular Zoom meeting. Please, can you mute if you're not talking? Can you please mute?
No, just worry. I'll work. I'm going to get you some other ones. Just
Yes.
hold on.
We just found out a few weeks ago, and immediately we had a meeting with the executive director of the DuBois Museum Foundation to get some clarification. About 12 of us, Mama Amakos of One Africa.
Keep the science on, okay?
Brother Jai Issa, unmute your mic. I muted everybody to take the sound out. If you unmute your mic, you can start back talking.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry. Again, bear with us as we do this. And so about a week ago, we decided that we needed to go out and talk about this in public. We're also going to go and do several media, major U.S. media shows about this subject. Get on the Carl Nelson show and a few other shows, because we want the government to Ghana to know that the W.E.B DuBois Center, to sell that center the way that they have sold it, without letting the African world know that this is a very serious, a very egregious doing. And it is a betrayal. It is a betrayal of the African diaspora. And it also steps on the legacy of the former president of Ghana, J.J. Rawlings. And we want them to reconsider this sale. This is very important. So as of now, I'm going to allow Minister Akbar Muhammad to talk, and then we're going to allow Brother Reggie to talk, and I think we have Brother Kwame Zulu Shabazz. He's very important because he received his doctoral degree in anthropology from Harvard University, and he lived in Ghana, and he's very familiar. He's very familiar with the people that we're dealing with, because a lot of the people who are on this board that is attempting to buy the DuBois Center, many of them teach at Harvard University. So I want him to speak about this concept, Dr. Shabazz. So right now, as other people come on who's supposed to speak, and then we're going to have Brother Brian Muhammad to speak, and then Brother Tad. We want right now Minister Akbar Muhammad to come on and talk to us. Go ahead, Minister Stewart. Can you unmute him?
Greetings. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Am I on?
Yes, sir. We hear you. You are.
First, I want to thank my brother. Not being heard, is bouncing back. 1 second. Am I on?
You're good.
Okay. I want to thank my brother for putting this on, and Shahid, we appreciate it. I know that the terminology selling the DuBois Center may not be the terminology that they're using, but in reality, it is what is planned. I don't know all of the details. I've read as much as I could. I saw the people who were on the board. How did they get on the board? Who elected them? Who chose them? And what is the overall intentions? The rumors that are floating is that they're going to put up nearly $40 million and make it a Class A museum. I saw that in some of the writing. But I think that the Africans in the diaspora, especially our scholars, our leaders, should know exactly what the intentions are, who created the board, whose thought it was to do this, and there should be a level of transparency so that we can know. Those like myself who lived in Ghana for a number of years, I lived there for 12 years, and I've literally brought thousands of Africans from the diaspora, from the UK across Europe, those in America. We held our convention there, and we supported the DuBois Center, though we knew that we could do better. I floated the ideas, why couldn't Oprah, when her show was #1 in America, do a story on Du Bois's life that many Africans in the diaspora do not know the history and his struggle. They do not know how his passport was taken away from him, not allowing him to travel the world and share with the world the struggle of Black people in the diaspora. The African brothers and sisters knew that we had a scholar in America who championed Africa, who wrote on Africa. And so we feel that we have a right to know about it. And if it's something that we don't feel is healthy for the Du Bois family and the remembrance of Du Bois, then we should be able to open our mouth and do something about it. When I heard about it, and Brother Shahid called me and told me about it and sent me the documents, I got on it. Some brothers and sisters, and especially those who are scholars and know the story of Du Bois, then we have the obligation to say to our people, yes, we want to do this, or we don't want it. There was a struggle over the Schomburg. In the same way, someone else outside was trying to choose who would be the leader of that great center. And we felt that we should have some input. Then they, if you notice in the memorandum, that they dropped Pan-African for some reason. And maybe those who are doing it do not want to include the terminology Pan-African, and we definitely want to see that in. So we would hope that we can rally our brothers and sisters to protest the movement. It is, there's a lot of Jewish people who have good intentions, but I read in there, this was a Jewish foundation that is involved in it. And I feel that there's no doubt in my mind. I feel that we should be consulted, especially the brothers and sisters who have been leaders in the Pan-African struggle, and not push them to the side. We are elders now, and we have to be examples for the young people, and those that don't know, we have the responsibility to teach them and get them involved in this struggle for the Pan-African identity. And so we would hope that brothers and sisters would lift up their voice. I first came to the DuBois Center late in my life. It was 1986. Vivian Lee, I believe that was her name, the wife of Robert Lee, who Dr. Kwame Nkrumah invited to come to Ghana and help him. He is a dentist from South Carolina, and he met Kwame Nkrumah when they were at Lincoln University. And I sat at his house one night, and he told me an unbelievable story of how he became a Pan-Africanist. He said that him and his then girlfriend were walking through the campus at Lincoln University not outside of Philadelphia, it's not in Philadelphia. And he saw this sign about a lecture on Africa with this funny name, Kwame Nkrumah. So they decided to go and listen to the lecture. And he said that, you know, it really took him. It was so much knowledge and so much that he didn't know about Africa. And he became a friend of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And when they made the decision to give up their American citizenship, accept Ghana citizenship, and move to Ghana, he opened a dentist office to take care of his needs. This center was dear to them once it was open, and giving honor to W.E.B. Du Bois. I look at the young students who make their first trip to Africa. I take them to the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial, and our next stop is always the W.E.B. DuBois Center. And most of them have no knowledge of the history and the struggle of W.E.B. Du Bois and what he means to us as one of our giants, one of the best minds, finest minds that we produce. So we have an obligation, and that obligation is to make sure that if there's going to be some movement on the DuBois Center, that have enough respect for those who have struggled, those who go and speak about Africa in the DuBois Center and speak about his legacy, have some respect for us and talk to us about it. Let us know what you have in mind, unless you feel that we should just be dismissed and you get a few people around you who agree with you. And I hope the agreement with you is not for resources that they feel they will get from you and you move forward. If you sit down and talk to us and tell us about it, but we find out by hearsay and then we find a little bit about it there. So I don't know, Brother Shahid, whether the word buying the DuBois Center, because they wouldn't use that. They would use another word in order to justify their action. So I just wanted to start off with that. And I hope that there are brothers and sisters who are on the line who can add to it and how we should go about lifting our voices against this move, unless it's sanctioned by a group of our brothers and sisters who have struggled for the center and struggled for recognition of those giants that we have that have struggled for Pan-Africanism. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Akbar Muhammad. No, they're not using the word sale. In the MOU, they use the word lease. And they're also using the terminology that in order to get this money for the center, they will have to, the government of Ghana will have to give up a major percentage of the center for at least 50 years. So therefore, the government will not be in full control over what happens at the center. And you are correct, Minister, the word Pan-Africanism is taken out of the center. And we tend to forget that the center was set up as a Pan-African think tank. Also within the MOU, before I invite Brother Reggie, then Brother Brian, also that what is implicit in the MOU is the fact that African Americans, or those Africans who were born, taken away from as slavery, via slavery, taken from Ghana and other places in West, Central, and East Africa, that they are only to be used as tourists. And this is far from the case. I had a very delightful opportunity to watch a few days ago a program that Minister Akbar set up with plenty of people who work with the Rawlings government, not as tourists, but as Africans who were taken away, and Rawlings allowed them to come back and participate in nation building, the same as what Kwame Nkrumah did. And the heart of all of this, at least for the last, since 1985, has been the DuBois Center. So to take the DuBois Center is to take away the heart and soul of Pan-Africanism in the country. And with that said, I'm going to let Brother Reggie talk, because Reggie brought up some very meaningful terminology about Wakanda and Pan-Africanism and this great betrayal. Again, Brother Reggie is a student of Dr. Clark. He took care of him in his last days. He's out of New York. He studied under Professor Jeffries and Dr. Ben, and from there, then we'll leeway to Brother Brian. Go ahead, Brother Reggie. Can you please unmute him, Stuart?
Hi.
Okay.
Do I have permission to speak? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
you do.
Okay, I don't know why there's an echo. I began working with Ghana 1980, roughly 1984. There was a Durbar of the Ashanti and Tufo Pakawari II. He came to New York because there was an exhibition on Ghana. And I think some of the stools and some of the major, really spiritual and cultural artifacts of Ghana. And so we did this Durbar. I was a student at the City College of New York under Dr. Leonard Jeffries and under Professor Small. And after many things that Dr. Leonard Jeffries will talk about, they gave him permission to do this Durbar, right? And so the kingdom of the Ashantis came. It was amazing. It was the Tufo Pakawari II. It was the chief linguist, Nana Bafor. It was the chief priestess, Nana Sa, and it was also head by the then Ogogohini and now deceased Nana Sopong. And that began my voyage into Ghana. 1986, I went to Ghana with Dr. John Henry Clark. This was the first trip that Dr. John Henry Clark taken back to Ghana since the time of Nkrumah. He had not been to Ghana. And we took a group of about 60 people, including Dr. Clark's son, Sonny Clark, Dr. Camille Yarbrough, and many others. And this was the beginning of what you call tourism to Ghana. We were the first group. It was headed by Brother X, who was a member of the Nation of Islam under the teachings of Elijah Muhammad, who organized it for us. And this was the first trip that John Henry Clark went back, and we went back with him. So from that period, 86, you have a number of activities. You have hundreds and hundreds of groups, thousands of people like Dr. Akbar Muhammad, and peace to you, brother, talked about looking at Ghana as the place. Why? Because of the legacy of DuBois and because of the slave forts and dungeons, Elmina Castle, Cape Coast Castle, Fort Abanzi, and many of the other forts that line the coast of Ghana, as we as Africans from America, Africans, descendants of that great Maiafa, as they call it, looked at Ghana as a place to be a home. And so we had relationships with the traditional people. And, you know, governments change. And so we had good relationships and bad relationships. And so presidents and politicians are not the permanent residences of that place called Ghana. It is the people and the culture. But as Dr. Jahi Issa had talked about, this is probably one of the greatest betrayals of our people since the time of enslavement. Why is DuBois important? I'm waiting for my professor, hope he comes here, Dr. Leonard Jeffries or Professor James Small, to give a overview of the history of Ghana. But 1482, the Portuguese came to Ghana and they built the fort for trading in the beginning called Elmina, the Mind. And it was a trading fort. And this began the beginnings of what would be called the Transatlantic Slave Trade, first from Ghana to Portugal, Lisbon, and then to the rest of the, as the other Europeans got involved and America was founded, it became, now we have the Transatlantic Slave Trade. the significance of Du Bois among all the different paths that W.E.B. Du Bois, our master scholar, took. Yes, he was part of the Talented 10. Yes, he had debates with Marcus Garvey in a negative way. Yes, Du Bois worked for Booker T. Washington, but through change and understanding, and understanding the world. Yes, he dabbled with socialism and communism. Yes, he did all of that, but Africa was changing, and he had cured all of his mistakes and found a home in Ghana. And he began a research center. That's where he would live, write, and study. Among the things that Du Bois, his first publication, really, basically his dissertation, was the suppression of the African slave trade. The suppression of the African slave trade is a must read for any scholar who wants to understand slavery and America's participation in slavery. People do not know that the slave trade, as they call it, supposedly ended in 1807. So from 1776, the founding of the United States, to 1807, which is roughly 30-something years ago, there was probably in America 1 million slaves inherited from the British, and that Americans was pirating, bringing into the shores legally, because their Declaration of Independence allowed for slavery. Britain began a end of the transatlantic slave trade, not for moral reasons, but because Britain had found out that America can use its Black army against them. So when they lost in 1776, they lost because Africans were coming into the United States to fight. So we have Haiti coming in roughly 1779, fighting in Savannah, helping the saving Savannah from the Europeans. Du Bois wrote about all of this. But what Du Bois understood, something that many of us do not understand. Du Bois understood that from the period of 1807 to roughly 1865, America continued bringing in slaves or African captives to be enslaved by illegal activity, by pirating. So yes, there was an act to end the importation of Africans in 1807 with the British and the English, but the Americans, through private ventures, continued to bring in slaves. And you have to understand about the Louisiana Purchase, and you have to understand that there was new lands, and those young Africans in Virginia and North Carolina and some of the early colonies, they didn't have the population to chop down those trees and clear the land. So they needed new Africans. And so the Southerners partnered with pirates. Du Bois wrote about all of this. Du Bois wrote, he is very critical, not just in Pan-Africanism, but because of Pan-Africanism, he wanted to tell the story about it. So now there's a memorandum of understanding to build a museum, which is really a zoo, not for Pan-Africanism, but to house Pan-Africanism as if it was something that once was, right? To house it in a museum as if it does not live, if it does not breathe. We're here today because we are going to demand from the government of Ghana, and many of our lives are, how can I say, is at risk. Many of us have connections to Ghana. We go back to Ghana back and forth, but this can't be about the enslavement of an ideology. This can't be for us a re-enslavement of Ghana. We know about the fights between the different African ethnic groups who couldn't get themselves together, who sided with the British, right? Who used guns against other African people, who helped become slave captors themselves. Their wars were for their traditional reasons, their festivals of killing other Africans who were prisoners of war. We know all about that, but we have forgiven Ghana for that. We have forgiven Ghana, right, for that, even though they call us Bruni Bafo, or Bruni, or Bafo. We know that. We had forgiven Ghana for that. We have forgiven for Ghana grandparents and great-great-great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents being bought through the shore of Ghana without a real Pan-African resistance. Du Bois decided in his later years, because he had to leave America to make it a home. And my major point is, and then I'll come back on, but I'm hoping that Dr. Jeffries come on because I'm his student. He could tell the story and be a little bit more balanced than I am. I am younger, I'm 55, but I started this journey in the 30s. We worked with Colonel Rollins. We had good relations, and we have good relationships. Some of us, again, have property in Ghana. But I will tell the Ghanaian government, this is war. This is an act of war against the African descendants who came through those slave forts and dungeons. For you to not go to other African nations if it meant money. If it meant for money, you didn't go to other African nations. You didn't go to Senegal. You didn't go to the Gambia. You didn't go to South Africa. You didn't go to other African countries who we have experience with as Africans, descendants of slaves. Or, no, sorry, African descendants who were enslaved. I don't like descendants of slaves. African descendants who were enslaved. But you did not go to your African brothers. What you did was you went to an American institution, and America is responsible for the enslavement of Africans. And you're giving them a foothold. You are giving up your own sovereignty. You are fools. You're foolish to give, to house a symbol of Pan-Africanism. You are an embarrassment. And why are you doing this? You're doing this for tourism? Tourism. What tourism? You think that the Africans who live in America, who are descendants of that great Miafa, will want to visit you, right? Based on tourism? You think that you got our minds? Do you think that we're stupid? Well, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this, Ghana. Don't be surprised when you see African descendants at your embassies outside. Don't be surprised. Do not be surprised, because you did not consult us. We're not dealing with the people that you did with the memorandum of understanding. We will deal directly with you. If it's about your tourism, right? Well, you will have no tourism. Yes, there were many panifests that we did, and we had our great entertainers like Stevie Wonder and Gary Bird. Those who were friends of yours will not be friends of yours. Over American money, over fiat, you have embarrassed yourself. You have embarrassed our ancestors. And so Dr. John Henry Clarke was right. Africa has no friends. Africa has no friends, and unfortunately that includes other Africans. You should listen and read what Dr. John Henry Clarke wrote, because it is Dr. John Henry Clarke that we follow. He was, for us, our closest living relative of Pan-African theory. And he wrote Africans have no friends. Ghana, you have not been a friend of us. If you are going to let an institution on 3rd Avenue or Madison Avenue, right, be a satellite to control us and our ideology. You have taken our hopes from us. You have wounded us in the fight. You have embarrassed yourself deeply. You have embarrassed yourself and you have embarrassed your culture. You have been recolonized and you don't even know it. So I will say that if you use words like Wakanda, which is a Hollywood film that was written by people that dealt with the governments of the world, about controlling the governments in some type of centralized elite government, and you use that word against us because you think it's popular, you have not read, you have not studied. The people who did the deal, they should be fired. And to this particular point, I don't see what reason we have to participate in partnering with you. It has to be torn down and it has to be rethought, and it has to have a connection to other African countries, right? You have betrayed you have betrayed Du Bois. You have betrayed Du Bois's work. You have betrayed the Du Bois's work for us, right? And it would have been better if you just leave the DuBois Center as it was, as a symbol. But for you to try to house it and to control it and to control the activities that's there, and that we need to get permissions from the slave masters that we already have in the United States, Ghana, you have betrayed us. And you don't know how hurt and how deeply, but the first opportunity we will get, we will be outside the Ghanaian embassy in New York, right? And we will picket you like we picket our oppressors. We will picket you and demonstrate against you like we demonstrate our oppressors, because you have no understanding of our legacy. You're not part now of our freedom fight. We need to look other places, Senegal, Gambia. There's other close African countries in West Africa that we need to focus on. And you have not done us right. So Dr. Issa, Dr. Akbar,
thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're gonna go to Brother Brian, and I want to say this before Brother Brian comes on. Go ahead and unmute him, Stuart. Last year, the year of return, $1.9 billion was pumped into the Ghana's economy. $1.1 billion, in which more than 3/4 of that came from Africans who were enslaved, whose ancestors may have gone through the more than 40 slave dungeons that were located throughout Ghana, right? So that's power. That's power. African Americans, I can speak of, represent $60 billion in tourism. Ghana was able to capture a significant part of that in less than 1 year. But now Ghana is selling the legacy that brought us there. Du Bois intentionally died in Ghana to be an example to all of us who are concerned about his legacy. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead to Brian Muhammad, who is a journalist with the Final Call, and then we will go to, Brother Sekou is there. Then we will run to Brother Shabazz, then to Dr. Sekou Nkrumah, the son, the last born son of Kwame Nkrumah. Go ahead, Brother Brian.
Thank you, brother. First, I want to say, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I want to first thank you for letting us know what is happening with the DuBois Center. I want to thank my brother and mentor, Brother Akbar Muhammad, who is actually responsible for my inroads into Africa. You know, as a young 20-something at the time, I had no desire, much less knowledge about why anyone should be engaged in Africa. but because he was doing the work that he was doing, it caused me to want to see. And in 1992, I made my first trip there with the group that he organized. And on that trip was the mother of our great brother, Kwame Ture. Of course, Kwame was there on the ground when I got there, when we got there. David Brothers, who was a strong helper in the All African People Revolutionary Party and the Black Panther Party as well, who is now among our ancestors. And this was my inroads into Africa. First stopping in Egypt, which was another kind of experience. But when I got to Ghana and got off the plane, I felt what I did not feel in my first doorway through Egypt, which was a certain spirit of the people and a certain spirit in the air that there is a connection. I think that looking at Ghana, and because of the experience of going there and then going a year later to help in the organizing of the Nation of Islam's first annual Savior's Day convention outside of the borders of America. And so I lived in Ghana, and then overall I was there until about 2000. And the DuBois Center is a center for Pan-African culture, Pan-African thought, and it is a very important institution. But I think that what we are dealing with here is not so much a war with the government of Ghana, but it's the war of the future of Africa. And what governments deal with that perhaps we don't readily deal with. What is the government of Ghana looking at and wanting to put $40 million into a museum? It is all about the money. You know, look at the slave dungeon. Brother Akbar knows that we didn't use the term slave dungeon. Before, it was those of us that came through this experience here in America for 400 years and came through the furnace of affliction and did not return to Africa the same Negro that we became in the 400 years that we were here in America. We went back because we wanted to reconnect with home. But reconnecting with home, we found out that where we had a conversion experience, consciousness, as our brother who just spoke laid out, the great teachers that we have had, Dr. Clark, all of them, that conscientized our people. I have to say the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, all of them, that conscientized us, that we can go back, not as Negroes, but as conscious people with a determined idea to make a true connection. Not everybody who's Black on the ground in Ghana is there for that reason. Everybody is not a Pan-Africanist. You have the elitists who are there, who won't mind making these kind of deals regardless of the history and the significance of such a center. So what are we looking at? What are we looking at? You know, when we were there, we know that the Smithsonian came and you know, was involved in the preservation as a international site of the slave dungeons. They're not castles, slave dungeons. What was Ghana to do? Was Ghana to get the money from us to do those to do these things that will mean revenue for Ghana that it needs? So we're not at war with Ghana. We're at war with the future of Africa and the freedom of Africa, because people who are there who are making money, and we all need to be concerned about making money, because if it was not a money issue, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about, competing with a foundation that wants to put up $40 million for control. And what comes with that control is the narrative. We've seen this all before. Brother Akbar, you worked with Minister Malcolm X. You know that man's legacy, not by reading it in a book, but by living that very struggle. And you're still involved in that struggle. But why is Malcolm now on a postal stamp? See, there's a certain level of acceptance. There's a certain level of sanitation that of sanitizing. Yeah, sanitation is the right word too, but sanitizing that takes place. And I believe that this is what we're looking at with the DuBois Center, because look at who's involved. Henry Louis Gates, whose history we know. And it's just a lot of contradictions there. He talks Africa, but he's so tied to these institutions, who wants to control the narrative and the effect of the narrative on our future. On our future. See? The year of return. See? Look at who was involved in that. Look at who's at the center and in the forefront. This is not an attack on that idea, because again, if it was not for the work of those who truly love Africa, not just Ghana, but Africa, and our people who put in the work, as Brother Akbar was saying, there were people who put in the work, you see? But because they have such need for money and they are afraid of an independent idea, like for example, the unification of the continent. They are afraid. They see that as a pipe dream. So why bother putting the investment, as our brother Muammar Gaddafi put in the investment to make that a reality? He didn't just talk about it, but he began to be about it, because it can happen. It can happen. So I don't know what the motivation, their stated motivation of the group, except for what the memorandum of understanding laid out, that they want to do a Class A museum because that will attract tourism money. That will attract, a certain level of activity to the DuBois Center, which again means revenue for Ghana. That's very real. So what are we to do? I don't know, brother. That's something that that can be talked about in terms of, protesting in front of the Ghanaian embassy. But I would say this about these type of activities and our connection to Africa. See, when we talked about the African Union, we know the African Union is not what the vision of the OAU what is or was. We know that the African Union, has become just this mass grouping to continue the legacy of acute individualism as nations have been trying to do their own thing for themselves. We know that. So the danger of us, of why we have to tread carefully in how we deal with the DuBois Center issue as a group of people from our reared here in the United States as part of this part of the diaspora is we don't want to become another tribe.
Okay, thank you so much, Brother Brian. We want to go ahead and go to Sekou. Then we're going to go to Brother Shabazz. And I want to add that Sister Perry, Claudette Perry, just mentioned that the center is a historical monument. She mentioned this in the chat, and that the decision to purchase must be a parliamentary decision and has not happened. So the process has to take its place. I want to also add, go ahead, Stuart, go ahead and unmute Sekou Nkrumah and Brother Shabazz. I want to also add that Minister Akbar has suggested that we send a delegation over to Ghana in December, that we raise the money as soon as possible. We send a delegation over to Ghana to meet with the leaders, including the current president, President Akufo-Addo, and they're having an election in a couple of weeks. So we don't know how that's going to pan out. But we need to let them know that as a diaspora, we do have power. And that those billions of dollars that we are bringing into Ghana, that speaks volumes. So we're going to let, and they must go through the process of parliament. But it is good that we are now coming together and saying, hell no, we do not agree to this. And if you do sell this, there will be serious consequences, very serious economic consequences. Brother Sekou, go ahead and speak, sir. This is Sekou Nkrumah, who was the, he was also a executive director of the DuBois Center. So he has a lot to say, and the last born of Kwame Nkrumah. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I must apologize for not coming on earlier, but I had problems getting on. Some of us are old schools. So these kind of things are new to us. But I must say, yes, I was the executive director years back. That's from 2003 to 2000. I was just there for 1 year. Unfortunately, what happened is that I got married to an African American, and she insisted we move to the US, so I obliged. We returned later to Ghana, but that's how I left the DuBois Center. But I must say that it was quite a difficult period for me and an experience for me to, first of all, it's not easy working in the public sector in Ghana. I don't know whether many of you would know those challenges we have back home. First of all, the pay is not good at all, and therefore you don't have people with the required capacity to handle those agencies or ministries they are working in. And then, of course, with such a poor salary, it doesn't really attract people of certain caliber to work there. I mean, I remember my wife then was teaching. She was then a high school teacher. She's now a PhD and doing her postdoc at Arizona State University. But she was then a high school teacher, and she was getting over $2,000. And I was the executive director of the DuBois Center, and the equivalent of my salary compared to her was $200. So you can imagine what it is. Of course, life in Ghana and the US is not the same. But let me go now to this issue of the DuBois Center. It was built during a revolutionary era, the period of who recently passed away, the head of state, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings. He was then a head of state. He wasn't then elected. He was elected in 92 and then stayed on for 2 terms. But it was built during the military era, I think revolutionary era, and I think there was a lot of emphasis on Pan-Africanism then. And in fact, after Nkrumah, Rawlings was the second head of state in Ghana who actually attracted people, Africans in the diaspora, African Americans and so on. So I think they put in a lot of money then to set up the place. I believe the boy's body was buried at the castle, and they moved it when they built the center. The center where the location now is where he used to live when he was in Ghana. He came to Ghana at the invitation of President Nkrumah, and the whole project was to do with, or his coming to the to Ghana was to do with the Encyclopedia Africana project. And the whole idea was to Africans to write our history from our own perspective and not from other people's perspective. But of course, he passed away. I think that Encyclopedia Africana has an office. I'm not too sure where it goes on there, but I believe somewhere at the airport residential area, the last time I visited the place. But again, not funded, not properly managed and so on. But back to the DuBois Center. So the issue here was that it was well funded, well established then, somewhere in the 80s. I'm not too sure the exact year. But by the time I got there in 2003, the place was in a mess. And it's typical of how we do things back home. We set up things, institutions or whatever, and then we neglect them. And they run down over the years. So many factors point to that. But the main point is we don't manage things properly. And beyond even managing the physical place, the idea behind it, sometimes we don't have a good understanding of why that place was built, what we can use that place for and so on. And I think that is part of the problem where now I believe the present government, this is new to me because this recent development, I just got to know about it a few days ago. So I believe that's the thinking that, okay, if we can't manage it, then let outsiders manage it. But again, as I was saying, who are those outsiders? And it shows our poor, again, understanding of what the boys represented and what the place should represent. Mainly, you can't throw away the Pan-African idea in it. Yes, it's to preserve the boys, to preserve his graveside and his library and research material and so on. I mean, books, literature and so on. But at the same time, the Pan-African component is very important or crucial. But let's look at some of these, the factors now. The present government is a right-wing conservative government. So Pan-Africanism is not really strong on the agenda. So the thinking is different. Yes, we have elections in December. I don't know whether they win or not. But the thing is that the NDC, we have 2 main political parties now dominating. The MPP, that's the current government, which is right-wing, and this NDC that took over the CPP constituency. That is because of the emergence of Rawlings on the scene from June 4, 1979 and so on, his second coming in 81. So he gradually took over the left of Ghanaian politics and attracted then people on the left, intellectuals and all that. So NDC has more understanding, or people in the NDC will have more understanding of Pan-Africanism and where the Bois Center should be moving, in what direction. And actually, as I said, during the Rawlings era, when he was a military man then, he set it up. So we can, if we have a good understanding of the MPP, then I believe we can understand why these developments are happening now. But let me say, even with those who in Africa, not only in Ghana, who are supposed to be on the left of our politics and have a better understanding of Pan-Africanism and where it should take us, linking with brothers and sisters in the diaspora and so on, and how to bridge that gap and bring them home, I mean, and all that. But the thing is, even those who are on the left don't also have good leadership to move Ghana and Africa forward. So this, I think, is just a reflection of what is going on in Africa. And as I think an earlier speaker said, even the AU, does it really represent those aspirations of the founders and so on? It doesn't really. So if we look at all this, it's not surprising that we are where we are, and it's not surprising this happening with the DuBois Center. But I think just to be cautious, and I was telling Jai that, you see, when you protest and challenge something, I think you need to also have an agenda yourself, because it's not enough to say, okay, this is not good. Those people coming in are not representing the Pan-African ideology and so on. And we know very well that government is interested in the money, really, so the highest bidder. But the thing is that if we don't have an agenda, and a convincing one, to tell people that no, I think it should go in this direction, or the people who should buy should be African Americans or Africans or people who really have the Pan-African agenda at heart, then I think that's okay. But if we don't have an agenda and we just go forward with this challenge, I don't think it might go very far. So we also need to dig deep and find ways of not only addressing this DuBois issue, but I think even Pan-Africanism as a whole, and building capacity in Africa that can really, and people of certain kind of intellectual depth, especially Pan-African centered kind of, who can move this Ghana and Africa from the standards in which we find ourselves. But again, let's be clear that we really manage things very badly in Ghana, and that's how they end up in this kind of situation. So in a sense, yes, we need to look at both sides, that we mismanage it as how things are so neglected, and we end up looking up to foreigners to take it over. But even let me talk about the economy in general. Ghana's condition and the rest of Africa is really dictated from outside. World Bank, IMF, and so on. What you call globalization now is more or less the new colonialism and so on, which Nkrumah talked about years back and so on. But I mean, have we revised his books and his intellectual, the things he wrote about and addressed? Do we have young men and women today who can take over that struggle and so on? Unfortunately, no. And even in America, those in America, I mean, you could see that even the struggle of the civil rights movement and so on, those in the 60s and 70s, we're in a far cry today from what it used to be. I mean, yes, a black was elected. I'm a bit hesitant to call him a black African American, but a black was elected to the White House. But really, it was more symbolic than really changing fundamental things. But that's a different matter altogether. But what I'm trying to point out is that at the heart of all this is the new colonial situation that continues to disturb and affect us in a negative way. And these are the little challenges and battles all over the place that we have to deal with. So I think it's a good call to challenge what they're trying to do with the DuBois Center, but I will advise that we have a good plan that we can show that, look, this is better and this is how we can do it. And of course, that comes with resources too.
Thank you very much, Brother Sekou Nkrumah, Dr. Nkrumah. We're going to go really quick to Brother Shabazz. Brother Stewart, can you unmute Brother Shabazz? Stewart, can you unmute Brother Shabazz?
He already unmuted. He was unmuted.
Okay, very good. Brother Shabazz is a brother that I've known for quite some time. He received his PhD in anthropology from Harvard University. Brilliant brother, lived in Ghana. He's married to a sister from Nigeria. He now resides in Illinois, I think. Brother Shabazz, go ahead and speak. We spent a lot of time together at the DuBois Center some 15 years ago. I was the scholar in residence of the DuBois Center under Ramel Moore. And so that's my introduction to continental African Pan-Africanism. I met Dr. Lee. I had so many conversations with Dr. Lee, and his legacy is also a part of that center, as Minister Akbar properly stated. So Brother Shabazz, go ahead and speak.
Okay, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Hotep, salam alaikum. Brother Jahi, we really appreciate, Brother Dr. Jahi, we appreciate you putting this together under such short notice, a very important topic. I'll be very brief. I'm not much of a talker, but I wanted to send a special greetings to Brother Akbar Muhammad. I've had dinner with him twice. He won't remember it, but I've had dinner with him twice in Ghana. I don't remember, there was some sort of controversy going on. He sat down and talked to me about it and gave me some guidance, and I appreciated that. We also organized, my first time in Ghana was in 1997. I was an undergraduate. Well, I was a proud graduate of Compton College, and I transferred to UCLA. And we did a study abroad program there in 97. And at that time in Ghana, we organized a program called The Color of Jesus, and Brother Akbar Muhammad and the Nation of Islam were very much involved in that. And I was the MC of that event also. So I've done several activities with the NOI in Ghana. And so just wanted to acknowledge their work there. They've been doing really important work. In fact, there's another story I'll tell you briefly. I stayed at a home of a young Ghanaian family in Accra when I was in Ghana. They had a hostel. And the brother told me that his inspiration for building the hostel was listening to the teachings of Minister Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan's message of doing for self and self-reliance, and not relying on the government to do things that you could do for yourself, motivated this Ghanaian brother to build a hostel. And that's what he did. He ran it for several years. So that message that goes back to Elijah Muhammad and Master Farad Muhammad has been influential on a global scale that we can't even document the ways it has been influencing the way people act and move in the world. And also I wanted to also acknowledge Brother Sekou Nkrumah. Sekou won't remember me either, but I brought students to Ghana a few years back, been about 10 years or so, from an HBCU. And Sekou was gracious enough to lead us on a personal tour of the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Center. And so I wanted to acknowledge him also. Now, on this issue at hand, I just want to echo what lots of folks have said. I want to acknowledge, though, too, that from what I read, there has been some African-American input. You know, I think Erica Bennett's name has come up, and she's, I don't recall her exact title, but she's some sort of representative of the diaspora. I don't know how she got that title, but she has that title, and she's had it for a while now. And she has a structure, as most of you know who've been to the DuBois Center. She has a structure behind Du Bois's house at the DuBois Center. I've also seen the AAAG, the African American Association of Ghana, I think was also, from what I've read, they were also involved in this project, right? So there has been African American involvement. I guess the question becomes with the quality of that involvement and the politics of those therein who've been involved. The AAAG is not necessarily Pan-Africanist, although some of the members will be Pan-Africanists. So there's that. So there has been, we have to, I think, so if we're going to move forward, as Sekou Nkrumah mentioned, with strategy, we should, I think we'll have to reach out to those folks and figure out, what their perspective was in being involved in, or apparently sanctioning this activity or not. And also Brother Cambone, who's at the University of Ghana, he should be involved too. I don't know if you talked to him yet, Brother Jahi, but he's a very vocal, strong, Black nationalist, Afrocentric voice on campus at the University of Ghana. And I'm sure he'd have a lot of input on the way forward, because he understands the politics a lot better than we are, us in the diaspora who are not there in Ghana on the ground. I also wanted to stress too, I liked a lot of the points raised by Brother Reg. But I wanted to stress, and I know he meant this, but we're not fighting Ghana writ large. We're fighting our struggles with the government, right? So not the Ghanaian people. And even in the narrative that Brother Reg laid out, I wanted to stress that even going back to the slave trade, the vast majority, of course, Ghana was not existent then. There was no Ghana. But the vast majority of the people in what we know Ghana at the time during the slave trade were victims. They were not perpetrators, so they were victimized in the same way we were victimized. So you're talking about a smaller group of elites and merchants who collaborated with Europeans, but the average person in Africa was as much a victim as we are here in in the United States. So we can debate about that later. I'm happy to debate or to discuss it. That's fine. And so most Ghanaians, in fact, even today, a major problem is education. You know, most Ghanaians don't have a good knowledge about what happened during the slave trade. And the same thing goes for us in the diaspora. Most of us have been miseducated about the slave trade. And so we have to, you know, if we're going to have a response to this, it needs to be Pan-African. We need to have a dialogue with, you know, people on the ground there, African Americans on the ground there, Jamaicans on the ground there in Ghana, and so that we have a legitimate, well thought out reply to this effort to take over the DuBois Center and manage and control the DuBois Center and dictate the terms under which we engage the DuBois Center. We know who Skip Gates is, and as someone's mentioned it before, you know, he was also involved in trying to take over the Schoenberg project. He also usurped Du Bois's project, the Africana Encyclopedia. So he has a history of doing this sort of thing, taking Pan-African, Afrocentric energy and turning it in another direction. So we don't, you know, we have to do what we can to fight that because we know where it's going. Now, but the reality is, you know, having been to the DuBois Center like you all many times, the DuBois Center is in bad shape, as Brother Sekou has mentioned, infrastructure-wise, management-wise. I worked there for about 4 months as a member of the AAAG. It needs funding. And if we don't have a response to how to fund it, then, you know, what are we really saying? Brother Reg mentioned the Senegal, right? Senegal has this, some of you have seen the Renaissance monument, but that project was built by the Chinese. And I had I can't say publicly what some of the things I know, but I was involved in some of it. And the part I can say is that the average Senegalese citizen was not in support of the project. They feel like that money could be used elsewhere, right? So this idea of monuments and putting money into monuments is another question we have to engage because, for example, in Ghana, where the DuBois Center is, most Ghanaians cannot tell you, who live in that area, most Ghanaians cannot tell you who DuBois is, what the DuBois Center is for. Many of them have never been there. And so that's a challenge also. You know, if we're saying this is an important site for Pan-Africanists and Africans generally, then we have to be on the ground doing the work to also educate Ghanaians, African Americans, folks in Ghana about the importance of DuBois and of the DuBois Center. But currently that's not there. We know this. And so that's on us as Pan-Africanists to do a better job of spreading that knowledge. There was one other point. Oh, I also wanted to note just briefly about, I wanted to thank Brother Akbar Muhammad about that wonderful story about Brother Dr. Robert Lee and his wife. Like Jahi, I've also had some conversations with him, and I had a long informal sort of interview with him at the DuBois Center several years back. So we move and work in honor of him and many others like him who sacrificed and struggled so that we continue to spread information and knowledge and in the Pan-African spirit as we go forward. So I'm here, I stand in solidarity with you all and, you know, give me my marching orders and I'll do what I can to intervene. But I want to stress lastly that you know, we have to be clear about what they're doing. From what I've read, it looks like they want to manage the DuBois. They're not buying it, they're managing it. They're raising funds to refurbish it, and they're going to be managers of it. And the 50 years that Jahi mentioned, I think, is they have a contract to manage the center. Sorry, my daughter's here. To manage the center for 50 years. And so we also want to be clear about what exactly they're up to, and so that we don't go forward with misinformation.
Okay, thank you, brother Dr. Shabazz. I want to add, and I know Reggie wants to come in, and we're going to end this in the next 10 to 15 minutes, that it is actually a lease. It's a lease. And on a Zoom meeting that myself, Minister Akbar, was a part of it, and Professor Smalls and several other people, the executive director of the DuBois Foundation basically stated, in order to get this large amount of money that they are raising for the DuBois foundation, the government has to basically give up ownership of their majority share, right? And we are totally against that. The government should not be forced to give up its majority share in the center. And it should always remain the DuBois Center of Pan-African research and culture, in which that has been taken out of the, that is not in the Memorandum of Understanding. So first of all, as Ms. Claudette wrongly stated, it is being leased for 50 years with the potential. They're still trying to raise the fact of whether or not what percentage the government will have of it, of the center. But in the discussion, the executive director has already stated to us that the government will not have a majority ownership of it if they want this money. So that is a major, major, major concern for them. And as has been already stated, the center in Ghana itself was a think tank for African people, for Pan-Africanism. It was a gift. And just recently, and I'm not sure if President Akufo-Addo knows about this, right? He's busy with so many other things. And we know it should go through Parliament, as one of the sisters stated. I'm not sure if she's on, brother Stewart. Is she on here? Well, you can unmute her and let her talk for 5 minutes, and then we'll allow one or two people to come back and talk, and then we're going to end it with some of the things of our recommendations and how we're going to move forward with this. Is she on here, Stewart?
I'm not sure. I sent her the link, but I actually can't see. So
okay.
I don't think
so we'll go straight to. I know Brother Reggie wanted to add something, and then I'm going to go ahead and basically end it. Brother Reggie. Oh wait, is that Professor Smalls? Oh, let's let Professor Smalls talk. Professor Smalls, we are live Zoom and Facebook Live, so there are a lot of people watching us.
Yes, I've been on for a while.
Okay.
I didn't know how to.
It says Galaxy Notes. It says Galaxy Notes. It doesn't say Professor Smalls, so I'm extremely sorry. We got about 20 people on this Zoom.
Yes, sir. But I'm on it. I heard Brother Shabazz, Brother Nkrumah, Brother Reggie, my brother from the final call. Well, I concur with most of what has been said. I'm just happy I could get on it at this last minute. But I think our position is clear. One, the government cannot give up control of the center. So that's key. Two, that the diaspora and significant leadership, starting with Baba Akbar at least, must be involved in any decision going forward.
Yes.
Three, we must have complete transparency of where this money is coming from and from whom. I think those three things are important. We know what the struggle, and I know Brother Akbar knows what the struggle has been over the years. And lots of money have come into this country going towards the DuBois Center. Now, the management of which we can't give an answer to, but this would be a good opportunity to see that there's a fund set aside by government that can't be accessed for any other purpose except for the upkeep and the maintenance and improvement of the W.E.B DuBois Center. And knowing Dr. Gates and his work, and like he has stated before, he would like to bring the DuBois body back to America. Well, DuBois wanted his body out of America. And Nkrumah facilitated that. So that's not even a discussion or thought that we would ever entertain.
Yes.
So those are basically my comments. I heard a good bit, and I'm proud of the coming forward. Thank you, Baba Akbar. Thank you, Doc, for pulling all of us into this when we didn't know what was going on. So I'm just here as a support element to do whatever instructions are given.
Okay, very good. As we wind down, Minister Akbar, you are the senior and the esteemed diplomat for the African diaspora, not only for the Nation of Islam, for the African diaspora, all of us Africans who have been taken away from Brazil, from the Caribbean to the United States. We will allow you to have the final say before I sum everything up and end.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. There's so many excellent points. One, we oppose what they want to do, whether it's control with money, whether it's leasing it for 50 years. One thing we have to do is to have a plan of our own of what we see for the DuBois Center. We can't just protest what they're doing, but what do we see and the importance of it? Our students coming over and the study of his life, unbelievable. I was in Libya for 32 days back in 1983, and I read his life's work. And when I read it, I picked up the phone on the day I completed the book and told the minister, Brother Minister, you have to write. I've been inspired, because I had never read his life, just pieces of it. So I think that he is a source of great inspiration for our young people if they know his life. And we have to know that there are people who like to control the direction of education for Africans in America and Africans in the diaspora, how they feel their education should be. And we need scholars to oppose that absolutely. So I think that Sekou Nkrumah brought an excellent point up about what do we have in mind? What is our plans? If they stop in their tracks right now because they thought they had a clear path until this came up. And we thank you, Brother Shahid, as I call you, for what you did in bringing this up, because we would have just gone, and before we knew it, it would be something else. I do want to thank the brothers on there who had dinner with me and we talked over when I was living in Ghana. So I just want to say that right now, as we get ready for the funeral of John Jerry Rawlings, former president of Ghana, he opened the door to Africans in the diaspora. I'm a living witness. Whenever we brought delegations, when I called his office, he would say, well, when can you bring them over? So many Africans in the diaspora, especially from North America, were able to sit and listen to President Rawlings as he gave his view of how Africans in the diaspora can help the African continent. In particular, he targeted Ghana at the time. And I'm gracious. I have great respect and love for him and his family. The minister just wrote a beautiful condolence letter today, and how he opened up Ghana for us to come in, bring people. At our convention, we brought 1,800 travelers that came and met Ghana and were introduced to Ghana. And we continued to do that as much as we could. I would run into Professor Smalls and Dr. J, bringing their groups to Ghana to put their feet on Ghanaian soil. And we don't want to lose that kind of spirit because of the circumstances of somebody putting up money. And we have every right to ask, what is this foundation? Who are the founders? Who are the members of the board? What is their intentions? What are their plans for Ghana? We have every right to ask that. Some people will say, this is none of your business. This is between the foundation and Ghana. No, it's between us, those who were robbed from Africa and brought to America. We know the slave master's tendency to try to control everything that would be about our destination and what we want to do. So I thank you very much for having this forum. It's important because our people don't know about it, but it cannot stop with this Zoom meeting. It must be spread out to our people and given some understanding of what's happening in Ghana and how we should move on it. Thank you very much, Shahid.
Well, thank you all very much. This is not the end. This is the beginning. When I first got wind of it, I called my main man, Brother Steve Coakley, who's the son of Steve Coakley Sr. We have places of residence in Elmina, which is a 5-minute walk from each other. He did a lot of leg work, and he told me what was really going on, and I immediately said, hell no, let me call on all the elders and ask them what they think about it, and they also said, hell no. So this is not the beginning. This is not the end. Even Professor Small stated that me and him will be going on the Carl Nelson show either tomorrow or next week to talk about this. We're going to put together our own proposal. And I want to say, over the last 10 years or 12 years, since 2013, I've written at least 3 proposals for the DuBois Center and submitted those proposals to the Ministry of Tourism. I have all of the proposals, right? They're nicely written. It talks about fundraising, building a 4-star hotel on the premise on that. So this is nothing new. And as Brother Reggie stated to me the other day, what we are heard about is that the government of Ghana, the Ministry of Tourism, didn't even ask us if we wanted to buy the center. It was almost like this was forced down their throat. And I'm even starting to wonder, after I've read the MOU at least 5 times, if they even wrote it. It seems like somebody else wrote up this MOU who has a very nefarious conditioning on how they feel about Pan-Africanism and Dr. Du Bois. And so with that said, we're going to end this. This is not the end. This is the beginning. I would like to thank all the participants, all of those who were able to come on Facebook Live with a very short notice. We ask that you share this. The Coalition to Preserve Dr. Du Bois' Pan-African Legacy is here. If they do somehow manage to sneak this past Parliament and past the people of Ghana, we will respond to this. And there are many things that we can do. And Du Bois' spirit is live and well. He's hearing and he's listening to everything, and he's very happy that we are still here fighting and struggling. And he wants us to be reminded that during his 93 years on this earth, did not live 90-something years for us to not be concerned with what's going on in Africa. And this here proves that we are alive, that Pan-Africanism is alive, it is not dead, and they will soon see that we do have more power than they can ever imagine. So I thank everybody. Just stay tuned to the Coalition's Facebook blog. I promise you, we will be very active about this and other issues that were raised on this meeting, and all the comments that we got from Facebook Live. We thank you in the Ghanaian tree, words, Madasi Pa. Good evening. Bye-bye.